How's it going, everyone? My name is True Underdog, and now that Kombat Pack 1 has finally wrapped up, I think it's time to make a tier list. So hopefully NetherRealm does calm down with the patch updates just for a little bit, otherwise this tier list is going to be immediately pointless. But for now, let's go ahead and make a tier list. We're going to start off with the S tier, the best of the best. And I think with all the nerfs that happened recently, it'd be hard to deny that Jackie isn't the best character in the game currently thanks to her Variation 3. It did get a few nerfs, but not in the areas a lot of people were hoping for. There's still not a very big gap between her air gunshot and her elbow on the way down. It's a very small window, very tough to anti-air. So her offense is still crazy good. All of her base toolkit is still there, still has unbreakable damage, fantastic mobility, really good pressure. However, in saying that, it's also very, very fun to play. I love Variation 3 Jackie, so much fun to play, but even I admit it could stand to be nerfed a bit more. And then I think behind Jackie, we may still have Johnny Cage, though I might move him as the video goes on. Johnny Cage got a big nerf to his Variation 3, but Variation 2 is still very strong, and even Variation 1, not a bad variation, but Variation 2 competitively I think is where it's at right now. Variation 3 now costs a defensive bar and an offensive bar just to keep himself safe after the Rising Star, and I do believe you can actually interrupt it too anyway. So he no longer has that guaranteed safe option that resets to neutral. That's a big deal for Johnny Cage. Still fantastic keep away in that variation though, so if he has an aggressive character like upgraded Jackie, he may be able to actually keep her out with those crazy force balls. They're just that good. And then right behind Johnny Cage, I'm gonna go ahead and put Cetrion. You don't see too many people play Cetrion, but I think as far as her toolkit goes, she's just really good. She has moves where she can hit you, but you can't hit her. She has really good keep away, obviously, fantastic zoning. Her combo damage is not the best, and that's honestly the only area she's weak at. Because unlike Johnny Cage, Cetrion actually can just spend one bar and keep herself safe all the time. Now there is a flawless block gap there though, to be fair, but it's still an option that she has, and Johnny Cage no longer has that. So she may actually be in front of Johnny Cage, but I feel like she only has the 1 or 2 variations going for her, whereas all 3 of Johnny Cage's variations are fairly solid. And then behind Cetrion, I'm gonna go ahead and put Liu Kang. Liu Kang has always been good, and he's stayed pretty good. He's had some nerfs here and there, and even the occasional buff, but I do think he's a very solid character. Not the best in the game anymore, but I do think he's very, very strong, and most importantly, he's simply strong. In other words, it's not very difficult to play Liu Kang properly. He's a fairly straightforward character with a straightforward game plan. And as we saw from Ninja Killer, even his Variation 3 can be useful in certain matchups. I still think it's his weakest one, but Variation 3 does have some practicality in some situations. And then for the last person in S tier, I'm gonna go ahead and add Joker. Joker is a very strong DLC character. I think Sonic Fox proved that. But even without them, Joker is a very strong character with his base toolkit, and then his variations kind of just help him in certain matchups. Very crazy setup character, he's always plus on everything. He has a lot of mix-ups that are actually safe on block, and he also has guaranteed ways to keep himself safe in most situations too. So very low risk and very high reward kind of character, and if he lands just one crushing blow, he's getting a lot of damage. We're talking very easy 40%. Now here of course is where things get tricky, the A tier. The A tier is going to be stuffed with characters, and so is B tier, I imagine. Not very many in S tier, not very many in C tier, but A tier is going to be like double stuffed Oreo. It's going to be pretty thick. Okay, let's go ahead and put Noob Saibot. I think with the 5-frame input buffer on block, Noob Saibot is going to do a lot better. He is now going to punish a lot of things far more consistently. That forward 2 is now one of the best punishes in the game. Even if your move has a ton of pushback on block, if it's -9 or more, Noob Saibot is punishing you. And then of course if you're up close, he has the go-to 1-1-3 combo, which leads to big boy damage. And in Variation 1, he can keep himself safe in every situation as long as he has bar. So once again, very low risk, but pretty good damage on the combo for how short they are. So he can kill you in just like 3 punishes. Still a very strong character, even without the crazy combos that he gets in Variation 2. He's the monster, he really is. And then in the corner, really good damage, crazy good damage in the corner, and he does have the occasional air jump teleport mix-up, which is more of an online thing, but still pretty strong. I think Noob Saibot is now one of the better characters in the game, which I think he deserves it. And now's where things get really difficult. I may change a lot of these, but I think Jax is also very strong now. For a similar reason to Noob Saibot, that buffer on block update is going to be a big deal for Jax. A lot of very fast mids, so he's going to be punishing everything. Now at the same time, he can't steal his turn as easy, so it may hurt him a little bit in the long run. A lot of Jax players would love to do moves that were barely minus and then squeeze in a down 1, and now it's not really possible anymore thanks to that new update. So who knows, maybe he's actually behind Sonya. Where are you, Sonya? There you are. Ms. Rousey, there you go. So I think Sonya is also really strong, The thing is, Sonya with her main mix-up leaves herself very open, and Jax just never does. Everything Jax does is safe, unless you choose to make it unsafe, otherwise he's fine. Whereas Sonya kinda does require you to commit to things, and when you commit she can be punished. But I still think she's really strong, crazy zoning too at jumping distance. These two might honestly be tied for now. I'm gonna go ahead and leave Jax in front. I just think Jax has the aggression. And then I think right behind Sonya we have Kabal. A lot of people are sleeping on Kabal. The guy has really good footsies, and just like Jax, he is safe on everything, unless you do something very irresponsible like a special move. Otherwise, all of his strings are literally safe on block. The only time he's ever punishable is if you choose to make him punishable. He requires no commitment to pretty much anything. Very decent zoning, very decent counter zoning, and in Variation 3, crazy good combos, restands, pressure on block, all that stuff. He's always been a solid character. I'm not sure why we don't see more Kabal. I think because these characters just do it better, maybe. Like if you want pressure, you can just do Liu Kang or Joker. If you want zoning, you can just do Cetrion or you can do Johnny Cage. And if you want crazy aggression, just pick Jackie. I think that's the reason why, is that he's kind of a jack of all trades, which makes him very good. But these characters just do it better. That's the thing. And then behind Kabal, let's go ahead and put Garrus. I think Garrus is still a very solid character. He got nerfed quite a bit, but he's still very hard to punish. He still has some true 50-50s. He still has one of the best counter zoning tools in the game, that Sand Trap. Still very strong, and his crushing blows are still crazy. He still kills you with a couple of mistakes. He's still very good. Kabal also good for that same reason. Couple of mistakes, really good crushing blows. So Garrus still very strong, no problem. I'm thinking Katana right behind Garrus. Katana is so much better now and so much fun to play in Variation 1 and 3. I'm not sure what Variation 3 is going to be like at high level, but I can tell you right now, Variation 1 is finally going to be seen again, I think, at tournaments. When the tournaments ever do eventually happen. Right now we have the whole Mr. Big C happening that's canceling everything of 2020. But once that all blows over, I think we might see Variation 1 Katana, and not just Adenian Razors. Because now Katana is finally doing regular damage, and when she does counter your keep away, she gets a damage buff that can then be stacked. So if you try to zone her, she can actually punish you with even more damage if the Katana player knows what they're doing, which also makes her very frightening. Very solid character now, tons of buffs, a lot more damage, just overall better in Variation 1 and 3. Also, you can't escape the fan NATO anymore. That's great. That was a fantastic change that I didn't even know I wanted, but it's very good. So I think Variation 1 and 3 Katana are more solid, which does make her a bit better in the matchups, which is why she's higher up on the tier list. And then right behind Katana, we're gonna put Cassie Cage. I think ever since she got the Rising Glow Kick and nerfed, she got a lot lower. Once again, just like Johnny Cage, the option to keep herself safe after pretty much everything was super strong, but now there is a gap there. Makes it a lot weaker. Now you still can't interrupt it, and it also won't cost you 2 bars like Johnny Cage. But even so, she no longer has the way to keep herself safe, and she still has good counter zoning, still a solid character. Everyone in A tier is good, don't worry. All of these characters are still good. In fact, every character in this game is not bad, in my opinion. But even though Cassie got nerfed, she's still going to be about here, I think, as a result, because she just can't keep herself safe as easily anymore. And next to Cassie, I'm going to go ahead and put Frost and Baraka. And this one is actually a tough decision for me, but the thing is, Baraka is mostly just aggression. Really good aggression and also good projectiles at jumping distance. Frost is also aggression, but has better frame traps. She also has better counter zoning, and she also has better full screen game. So I feel like Frost is just all around more solid than Baraka. I think Baraka does aggression better and does like better combo damage, but Frost can hurt you almost as much. And she's almost as aggressive while also being really good at counter zoning and also really good from far away. So I think Frost is just a bit more well-rounded than Baraka, but once again, playing Frost is kinda weird. She's very unorthodox. You keep the opponent standing the whole time, you use constant frame traps, and if they ever do break away, that's when you hit them with the crazy combo damage, especially in the corner. And just like Cassie Cage used to have, Frost has tons of safe options, just to keep herself safe in every situation. So not a crazy mix-up character, but frame traps and pressure, really good counter zoning, all that stuff. She's very solid. Whereas Baraka has always been the aggressive character, tons of damage, great range on his footsies, good projectiles too, but does still struggle quite a bit in really heavy keep away matchups, whereas Frost does not. And then behind Baraka, let's go ahead and put Spawn. I think Spawn is a very solid character, but unlike some other characters I mentioned earlier, Spawn is not straightforward. He requires some very strong fundamentals, some very good whiff punishing, and also some very good combo mastery because his optimals are not easy to do at all. But once you master all of those things, you are deleting the opponent's health bar for just a couple of mistakes, so he's a very strong character. He also does not offer up his own hurt box. He can hit you and you can't hit him. with a lot of his moves, which makes him very good in the neutral. Also very solid projectile. I made entire videos why Spawn is good. You all know that Spawn is good, so I think he belongs right about here. And then behind Spawn, I'm gonna go ahead and put Jade, and then Kung Lao. I think Kung Lao requires a very patient player to be good, despite how crazy, hectic, and aggressive he can be, because a lot of what he does can be very punishable, and I think a lot of Kung Lao mains are seeing that now when they go online, because those staggers on block are not as easy to do. You can interrupt his stuff a lot easier now. And also his teleport's not that fast, not a very good punish, and if you do it at the wrong time, the opponent can just punish you with a full combo. Jade's still fantastic at around jumping distance, really good keep away, really good counter keep away, but she only has one way to get damage off of that overhead, and that overhead is super risky. And I think that's why Jade has like slowly gone down the tier list for me personally, is because she can't really hurt you unless she gets that one optimal. Otherwise, it really is just a very slow and patient punish game and death by 1,000 paper cuts. But she needs that big overhead to really get damage, and that's a super unsafe mix-up. So I think it's good to have her right about here. Online, she is a monster. She'd be like top 10, but as far as like regular offline high-level play, I think she's around here. And then to polish off the A tier, let's go ahead and add Shang Tsung. I think Shang Tsung is still a very strong character. In fact, in my video where I was ranking all the DLC, I thought initially he'd be in front of Spawn, but I feel like all the nerfs just make him struggle a bit more, and he's also not the keep away king that he used to be, and that damage nerf was a pretty big deal for Variation 1. Variation 3, though, as a result, has seen a lot more play, and I like that because I like seeing the ninjas. It's fun seeing Ermac, Reptile, Smoke, and all those boys, so I'm glad we see more Variation 3. But even that one's not hurting very much, and oddly enough, a pretty honest character, just has some pretty good pressure with all the cancels. Oh boy, now we gotta start off B tier. This part's gonna be tough. How do we start off B tier? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say D'Vorah. And D'Vorah is a weird case because you have to really put in the hours with D'Vorah. You gotta put in that work. You gotta learn every matchup, but I think if you do, she does pretty darn well. Once she gets you knocked down and sets up those bugs, she is a monster. And then she has Variation 2 to punish every type of keep away you go for, and that also has some really fun setups. And she has the throw crushing blow, which is great for when she's close. She has a way to keep herself safe too, at the cost of just one bar, things that Johnny Cage lost, so she does have some really good tools. The main problem with D'Vorah, especially against players who are more casual, is they just love to throw uppercuts, and it hits D'Vorah every time if you try to abuse her high attacks, which have great range, but they are high attacks, and the overhead is too slow. The mid is just too slow, which means at high level, D'Vorah is doing a lot more pokes, a lot more walk back and whiff punishing, a lot more of that stuff, but her combos really hurt, and also the best air control in the game. She also counters Variation 3 Jackie super well. You just have to have someone who really commits to D'Vorah, because that down forward 2 just says don't jump. It wins every time, and then if you want, the crushing blow is one of the best crushing blows in the whole game. So it's pretty darn crazy, and at the end of that combo, she sets up her throw crushing blow. So really scary character once she gets going. I think she's very powerful. You just have to have the patience to learn her. And the same could also be said for Kotal Khan, who I'm gonna put right here. Variation 3 is actually very strong. It just requires a lot of patience. And then Variation 1 has the tick throw setups, which are great. They're actually bordering on cheap. They're so good. But man, I do like them. They're a lot of fun. I think Kotal Khan is finally a solid character, and those buffs really helped him out a lot. And you know what? I think Nightwolf goes here somewhere too. Nightwolf might actually be in front of everybody. I don't think Nightwolf excels at anything, is the problem. I'm gonna go ahead and put Nightwolf right here for now. I think Nightwolf is super solid, but once again, a jack of all trades, and more importantly, a very honest character. Nightwolf is not going to delete your health bar, and a couple of mistakes. He also has no crazy 50-50s. His pressure is just okay and not great. So very solid character, but nothing crazy, which is why I think he's great for B tier. And now let's go ahead and add Kano. Kano, a pretty strong character. I'll admit I don't understand Variation 2. Variation 3 is pretty fun for combos and has a good projectile. It's a mid and can also crushing blow on counter hit, kind of like Kotal Khan, only it's not a high, so pretty strong projectile. And then of course we have Variation 1, which is still the most popular variation where Kano can just go in and be very aggressive. He has a command grab, has a low, has an overhead, all that good stuff, and good combo damage, especially in the corner. So always been a pretty solid character and still a solid character. I like him. I'm gonna go ahead and say Terminator, just because once he gets going, he's impossible to stop. As I mentioned in a recent video, that meter burn shotgun, he hits you and then it's 50-50 town, and the best 50-50 mix up there is still safe on block. It leads to a full combo on hit, so low risk, very high reward. Scary character, his only weakness being the keep away is not very good for him. If you try to lame out Terminator, it might actually work for you. He's not very strong in that regard, but I still think his rushdown makes up for it, and he also hurts quite a lot. Variation 2 has even more mix-ups and has the Running Man, very good. Variation 3 we don't see very much, but I think people sleep on it. But Variation 1 and 2, very scary. You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and put Collector. I think Collector has gotten a lot better in recent times. He's gotten a lot better with those recent buffs. He has really good combos, which he already had, but now they're really, really good combos. And then he also has better zoning now. Variation 2 got better, which is really nice to see. Variation 3 has the best combos, but gives up some really important tools. But I think Variation 1 is finally where it needs to be, and now Collector can shine that much more. He was already really good at jumping distance, but now he's safer, and he has way better combo options, which I think is what he needed. And then behind Collector, let's go ahead and put Sub-Zero. Once again, online, Sub-Zero is like number one, like way up here. He's a really strong character online. He's very hard to interrupt and react to all those 50-50s. But when it comes to playing offline, he hangs himself for the overhead. So the overhead you don't see very often because if the opponent guesses right or reacts to it, they get a full combo punish on Sub-Zero. So now instead what you see is very patient play with Variation 2. Which is a lot lamer, but a lot of good keep away options. A lot of characters who are immune to projectiles like Jade are not immune to his icicles or his big shield or even his axe, right? He has so many options that beat people who normally can counter keep away. So he's a lot stronger in that regard, but still a lot of unsafe high risk options. And that's why he's right here. The slide, great for punishing, but if the opponent baits it, full combo punish. Overhead can be good too, but if the opponent reacts to it, full combo punish. So a lot of the things that make Sub-Zero great, he can live and die by. They're pretty high risk, high reward too, but also very high risk, and that's why he's in B tier. And then behind him, I'm thinking Aaron Black. Aaron Black got a lot of nerfs, but he's always been solid. He can pretty much neutralize all projectiles, which is still very strong. He still has overhead low mix-ups, he has the acid puddle pressure, all that good stuff. So he's still a very strong character, despite all the nerfs. I think he's very solid. And then behind him, now is where things get tricky, right? I'm thinking that behind him, maybe we have Sindel. I like her quite a lot, and I think that if played correctly, with just a couple of buffs, she'd be really good. Maybe she's not here. Let's go ahead and put Scarlet, I think, in front of her, of course. I think Scarlet is way more solid than Sindel. So Scarlet right here. Poor Scarlet, that teleport nerf she did not deserve, but everyone got it and it was universal, and so did Scarlet as a result. I feel like one of Scarlet's main issues at high level is you can flawless block gap all of her stuff. Like all of her best tools have answers, is the problem. Even if they're normally safe, there are ways to beat them or interrupt them, something of that nature. She does have really good punishes, but that relies on the opponent making a mistake and doing something minus, which a lot of good players don't. And that's her biggest struggle. She also has no 50-50s whatsoever. She has a very weak overhead with a very bad crushing blow, so no threat there. I still find that bizarre they haven't increased the damage on that crushing blow. It is nothing. Now to be fair, Scarlet does have some good crushing blows, but that one just blows my mind how bad it is. You can get it, realistically, it's not hard to get, especially online. But my goodness, it's like no damage. It's like, why even go for it? And then we're getting into the bad boys, I think. Now it's time for the C tier, the dreaded C tier, these poor boys. So I think at the front, we probably have Scorpion. Pretty solid character, pretty solid. And online, he's like way up here, right? But Scorpion, that teleport nerf was a big deal. Very big deal for Scorpion. And if the opponent is patient, a lot of his better mix-ups are punishable. And if they're not punishable, they're very easy to react to, so he's never opening you up. That's the problem. A lot of his online stuff is super good, like forward 3 into throw, super good mix-up. Works really well online, but not offline. And then right behind Scorpion, I think we have Raiden, just because the Raijin variation. The Raijin variation is actually pretty competent. It can help him out in some regards, but poor Raiden is just lacking in so many ways, and he has to get that buff out. If he does not activate that buff, then he is still really bad. So if you pressure him constantly, he never even gets to use it. That's the problem. If he gets it out, he's a fairly competent character, but if you lock him down and just never let him do it, or if you block really well and he never gets the chance to use any of his combos or any of that stuff, then he remains a pretty lackluster character. I still enjoy playing Raiden, but even against opponents who don't really know what they're doing, they understand, oh, if I just pressure you, you can't do any of the cool stuff. Or if I just lame you out, you can't do any of the cool stuff. And that's a pretty big problem. And then I think sadly, in last place, we have Shao Kahn. But once again, no character on this list is bad. I have seen Video Games Yo get like 50 game win streaks in Kombat League with Shao Kahn while also being a high rank in Kombat League, so there's no excuse. All of these characters are decent. You can get the wins with them if you study the character and learn the matchup, so don't be afraid. Shao Kahn is not unusable, he can still get the win. But as of right now, when it comes to competitive play, I think he might be one of the weakest characters in the game. You know what? let's just say him and Raiden are actually tied for last place, because Video Games Yo has won tournaments against some great players with Shao Kahn, and I don't think Raiden has won any tournaments, even with Variation 2, but that's just because Video Game Yo loves Shao Kahn. If he loved Raiden, I think Raiden could win too. So I feel like as a character themselves, this is where they would be. But down below, please let me know what your tier list looks like for Mortal Kombat 11, because I think I'm about done here. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a ton. And once again, don't forget to comment your thoughts below. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.